Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. Leave comments. Definitely leave comments. I appreciate anything that recommendations or discussion that people want to have about these topics, and I encourage you all to do so. Today, I'd like to talk about the simp economy. Have been consuming some content on YouTube lately, as I have for years now, about red pills, the usual red pill manosphere stuff. And one of the things that's clear is men going their own way, or men sent their own way. A lot of guys, well, I will read the comments, and I'm pretty good about reading a lot of the comments in almost every video that I watch or view. And inevitably, um, guys will say it's about time, or that's it, hold the line, and women aren't going to see us anymore, and so on. And the fact of the matter is, while that's true for uh, probably many of us, that's far from true for, I think, the majority, or uh, even if it weren't, they're not a majority, a good deal of men. There's still plenty of men, and I would say some very masculine men, who are all about the simp economy. Um, and some would say, well, they're not very masculine, but we have been programmed, as many of you know, that um, you know happy wife, happy life. You treat women like princesses, and so on and so forth. And there's still a lot of men who are programmed that way, and they actually are very masculine in a lot of ways. They can fix their own cars, they can build houses, they can lay concrete block, they can do lots of different things. But when it comes to the simp economy, they're all about you know these giving these women what they think they want. And unfortunately, that's why things aren't going to change anytime soon in male female dynamics as they're currently configured, because there are enough men out there who just basically are simps. They still get down on one knee and propose, spend a small fortune on an engagement ring, you know, give women things they think they want, big house, fancy cars. I can't tell you how many women I see driving around my neighborhood, which, granted, a lot of folks around here are pretty well heeled. They do pretty well for themselves. But they're driving around, it's just, one woman, maybe two kids, maybe one kid, driving around in a Suburban or a Tahoe or a Yukon or sometimes an Escalade. Um, the Range Rovers. We've got some Range Rovers in here. Definitely the bigger Toyotas, the Sequoias and stuff. And realistically, no, even uh, medium-sized family needs a vehicle that big. But that's another story. It's all about status with women and what others have they want. I remember a similar phenomenon even in the 80s. And I discussed this actually with yeah, I think it was with my second wife. This thing where all the women had to have Explorers. Everywhere you looked. I remember my mom had to have an Explorer, even though she was an old, different generation. But all the boomer women had to have Explorers back in the day. And now they all have to have Yukons, or the better heeled ones have to have Porsches, the Porsche Sport Utilities, which almost sounds like a sin to say, or Range Rovers. Um, that's the way women are conditioned. That's kind of a little bit in their DNA, but it's also they're conditioned that way, they're programmed that way. And there are enough guys out there, and make no bones about it, even though there are quite a few women today who earn, good money, most of the time they get with guys who make as much, if not more, than they do. And so, the guys are paying for these lifestyles. The guys are paying for these. And maybe down the road, I'll tell you a story about a gentleman I know who kind of got caught up in this whole relationship um, situation, and it didn't end well for him. But that's a topic for a different video. Um, there are enough simps out there, so these dynamics are not going to change as much as we would like them to. There are a bunch of us, myself included, who just refuse to participate in that system. But there's still enough men, and plenty of them, who fund that economy. And you know them, and I know them, and I know at church there's a family. Um, she is the higher wage earner. He does all right, but she still makes more money. She's a professional. She has like physical therapy business, and she's actually taught physical therapy at a small local college. So kind of an expert in her field. And they have 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. And, he's very much a simp. Anything his wife does. And his wife, her father has means, so he helps fund their lifestyle. They're both millennials, older millennials, like, in their early 40s. And the boomer parents help fund their lifestyle. Helped them build a house, paid for an architect, that kind of thing. And, he's just basically, the husband is just basically along for the ride. Whatever she says goes. He's had a couple different jobs. He travels quite a bit for work, but he's just basically a wage slave. He's a walking wallet. His money is her money, and her money is definitely her money. So, and that's a situation a lot of us have found ourselves in, or will find ourselves in. And I hope for you all that you figure that out sooner rather than later. But that isn't going to change, and it isn't going to change anytime soon. It is changing somewhat, and there's a lot more awareness on the part of men, but it has not changed completely. And there's still enough of a fog around male-female relations, and also, placating men with things like, sports ball and, uh, alcohol and so on, to kind of keep a lot of people asleep, a lot of men asleep. Anyway, that's about all. I don't want to go too long on this subject. That's about all I have today. I think for next time I will talk about that gentleman who has found himself in a tough spot. At any rate, again, please like and subscribe, and I will see you down the road.